Well, those are good questions, and there's no question about the fact that the government of China has worried the investors from the United States who invest in China more in recent months and years than he did in earlier periods. So there's been some tension, and it's affected the prices of some of the Chinese stocks, particularly internet stocks. Just in the last day or two, the Chinese leader has sort of reversed course on that and said he went too far and he's going to pull way back and so on and so on. So we're having some hopeful signs. But yes, there are more difficulties of dealing with the regime in China than there are in the United States. And it's different. It's a long way away, and they have their own culture and their own loyalties and so on and so on. And the reason that I invested in China is I could get so much better companies at so much lower prices, and I was willing to take a little political risk to get into the better companies at the lower prices. Other people might reach the opposite conclusion, and everybody is more worried about China now than they were 2 or 3 years ago. So that's just the way it is.
I have nothing to add.
When you buy Alibaba, you do get a sort of a derivative, but assuming there's a reasonable honor among civilized nations, that risk doesn't seem all that big to me. Well, we did it for a very simple reason. We got more strength per dollar invested. In China, the companies we invest in are stronger relative to their competition and priced lower. That's why we're in China. Well, the Chinese government is worrying all the capitalists in the world way more than it used to. And of course we don't like that. And we wish that China and the United States got along better. And if you stop to think about it, think of how massively stupid both China and the United States have been to allow the existing tensions to arise. What bad is ever going to happen to China or the United States if we two are close? If we make good friends out of the Chinese and vice versa, who in the hell is ever going to bother us? Of course we should make friends with China. And of course we should learn to get along with people who have a different system of government. We like our government because we're used to it and it has advantages of personal freedom. China could never have handled its life with a government like ours. They wouldn't be in the position they're in. They had to prevent 500 million or 600 million people from being born in China. They just measured the women's menstrual periods when they came to work and aborted those who weren't allowed to have children. You can't do that in the United States, and it really needed doing in China. And so they did what they had to do using their methods, and I don't think we should be criticizing China, which has terrible problems because they're not just like the United States. They do some things better than we do. They should like us and we should like them. So I think nothing is crazier than people who foment resentments on either side of that one. Well, I have no insight that's any better than anybody else on that one. Most of these things in the days when both parties have huge numbers of hydrogen bombs get resolved because the alternative is so awful that even an idiot can see that the question ought to be resolved. That's the way it's worked so far, and I hope it keeps working that way. We live in the Pax Nucleana. We've gotten an absence of world wars for a long time because we had these nuclear weapons. It's been a blessing to humanity. But it does make you nervous every once in a while, and it's quite irresponsible when the leaders in the modern age get over tensions over border incidents and so forth. The political leaders on each side are trying to make points with their own constituencies by showing how tough they are. That is massively stupid on both sides. Warren, like many other intelligent people, likes to invest where he's personally comfortable. And for some reason, I'm more comfortable with the Chinese than he is. That's a minor difference. But I have all kinds of places where I'm just like Warren. I have all kinds of things where I'm not comfortable, and I just don't go near them. I think an old guy is entitled to invest where he wants to invest in. I don't think Alibaba is as entrenched as something like Apple and Alphabet. I think the internet is going to be a very competitive place, even if you're a big internet retailer.
He asked, Mr. Munger is a champion of Chinese stocks. How concerned is he about Chinese government interference, as seen recently with Ant Financial, Alibaba, and Mr. Jack Ma? What, for example, is to stop the Chinese government from simply deciding one day to nationalize BYD?
Well, I consider that very unlikely. And I think Jack Ma was very arrogant to be telling the Chinese government how dumb they were and how stupid their policies were and so forth. Considering their system, that is not what he should have been doing. No, I don't think that. I think the Chinese have behaved very, very shrewdly in managing their economy, and they've gotten better results than we have in managing our economy. And I think that will probably continue. And sure, we all love the kind of civilization we have. I'm not saying I want to live in China. I prefer the United States. But I do admire what the Chinese have done. How can you not do it? Nobody else has ever taken a big country out of poverty so fast and so long. And what I see in China now just staggers me. There are factories in China that are just absolutely full of robots and are working beautifully. They're no longer using peasant girls to beat the brains out of our little shoe companies in America. They are joining the modern world very rapidly, and they're getting very skillful at operating.